Hi, everybody. My name is Sarah. Pearls of Wisdom and Food on YouTube and Facebook and right here at home if you stop by. Anyway, pow off. Pearls of Wisdom and Food, pow off. So, I just got back from my walk and it's 30 degrees out, but there was no wind, so it was delightful. Anyway, I had this epiphany, and maybe I've had it before, but it never resounded like it did just now. And I was just wondering, have you ever had your aha moments and just gone, wow, I think I get this. I think I'm going to be able to make this change. Maybe the change is something you've been hearing about here. Maybe the change is something that you hear about elsewhere. You read in a book, a doctor told you, a best friend told you, somebody that got off some medication because of their change in their food plan told you about. Or maybe your aha moment is, no wonder I did that when I was younger. No wonder. No wonder I drank, did drugs, shoplifted, overshopped, overate when I was little. No wonder it became such a part of me. No wonder. And I'm one of those, because of my 12-step work with other addictions, firmly believes that until you have your aha moment, you're going to struggle with whatever the overuse of something is. I call it an addiction. I call it a disease. For me, of course, it was the food. It was the first one of many addictions that I've been working on all my adult life. Now, I can leave it and live for today because I have a food program that keeps me safely contained in my box with my tracker, with the complementary food in the fridge, the freezer, the pantry. And so everything is kind of comforting for me. And I realized today when I was walking that of course I escaped into food. It was my best friend. And it took my hand when things got a little awry, shall we say, in the household. I was an only child of an only child, so there weren't a lot of relatives around. And the addiction of drugs and alcohol in my household really got pretty powerful when I was around 9. And I became the parent of the family. And some of you may have done some work around this, and so you understand the parentified feeling. But my best friend, my go-to, my grab and go, my raison d'etre was food. It became the escape. It became the relief. It became my best friend. And it became an addiction. And so all those candy bars, all those bowls of cookie dough, all those brownie battered dough bowls. I didn't even need for the stuff to be cooked. I just ate it as raw. I can't imagine what I was doing to my metabolic system way back then. It was incredible. The junk I would eat. And I began babysitting at that time. And so I had full access. So for a little 10-year-old taking care of babies, taking them to the park and going to the penny candy store, I was like a drug addict in a Bowery where you met your drug addict today. You know, I had full pass access. Like, you know, I could go visit the rock star behind the scenes. I had full access to my drug. And I could purchase it because I was babysitting, so I had all that money that I kept in that tennis ball can, and I could go buy my drugs of choice. And when I babysat, it was a treasure hunt at these people's houses. I would just eat. As soon as those kids were down for a nap, down for the night, I just became, it was outrageous. I suppose if there were cameras back then, they would say, whoa, Nellie, we got a wild one here. And because of that, of course, I was a fat little girl starting at 9 or 10. And because I was fat, the idea of boys was pretty far away because they weren't having any of me and all of me. And so I had to become the funny fat girl, and who was fueled by food. Oh, all those F words. And it was not fun. I made like it was fun. I made like I was okay. Most of us that are food addicts and began at a young age became actors in our own staged productions. And we made like it didn't bother us. We didn't, my nickname was Slenderella. And it started in, I think, probably junior high, so the 7th grade. And so, I was teased incredibly about that. But then I also put on wild parties, so they kind of stopped the teasing of being fat, and I was just the fat little girl Sally that put on good parties. But food became my legal drug, and for many years, and it was firmly in place by the time I hit my teenage years, which are also vulnerable for most of us. And so slowing it all down now at 66, I mean, think of that. I started at 10. So that's 56 years of being in this forest with not a lot of guides, not a lot of fresh batteries for the flashlight, trying to figure a lot of things out. So in the early 70s, when I was in my early 20s, I figured out I have a food addiction. And so I began going to those meetings and getting connections. But, there weren't questions asked there so much as self-discovery. And so it wasn't like sitting with a counselor for a food addiction where they would ask me pointed questions about, do you eat in the middle of the night? Do you, is it sugar? Is it crunch? Is it, carbs? Is it, do you steal food? Do you eat in front of other people? Do you eat in the closet? Is it shame-based, or do you just make like the life of the party and that this is okay? And so while everybody else is getting drunk or high, you are with your drug of choice, which is food. So a lot of times there weren't questions asked. And so, and I think about it today, and I try to make these podcasts kind of provocative. And so one of the things I wanted to ask you today is, have you ever looked at how you eat? Are you a fast eater, a moderate eater, or a slow eater? When you eat, are you engaged, or you shove it in like somebody would shoot heroin? Let's just get that part over with, or like some people, there's a whole addiction surrounding the whole shooting of heroin, in case some of you aren't into drugs that much or knowledge of it, where the whole thing with the tying the arm and the heating the little crack or heroin, whatever it is, in the spoon with the little cotton ball with the needle, and how the whole thing, the works, right? It's their high before they get high. And I realized that knowing I'm eating certain foods back then that were unhealthy, and today being healthy, like the healthy veggies that are unrefined carbohydrates, I get kind of high. I get kind of excited because, I can be the master of my world when it comes to food preparation, and eating it. And so it's kind of cool. And so then I dine, and a lot of you know I dine. I use a cloth napkin, I sit still. Yes, I probably watch a guilty pleasure TV when I'm alone, like at lunch, but that's how I do it. That's how I rock and roll it. And so, but I'm a slow diner, and I savor it. And I've heard the people say that after the second bite, you don't even taste it. Well, I want to make sure, I want to prove them wrong. I want to stay mindfully involved in, even if the plate is just this small with like a scrambled egg on it and 2 slices of bacon, I'm going to make it last. I want to taste all of it. And I buy high quality things, so I want to have every bite noticed. So my aha moment was, of course I began to be a little foodie at 10 years old. Zoning out with food. It was my best friend. It was, it was transportable. I could do it anywhere. I could do it at school. I could do it when I babysat. I could do it, in the recess yard. I could do food wherever I was, in the car when my mother was driving me, or when I took the car at 14 because because nobody was paying attention. I could eat anywhere I wanted. I had a boat. I had a Boston Whaler. There was a McDonald's on the water. I could take that boat over to McDonald's and have my large French fries and my tab. There was nobody telling me I couldn't do these things. And so at a young age, I became a person that had a license to eat very young, and that I did. And so now, all these years later, here we all are. You're listening to me. I wonder if you've had similar experiences. If you have, I'd love to hear about them below. Aha moments are really, really cool. It's the gift of being consistent in your food plan, whatever your food plan is. But the aha moment of like, oh, this consistency thing really has more gifts than just weight loss. It has connections to up here, so I don't have to go back to that person that I was seeking relief with food. And this is all the day before Thanksgiving, the food event of the year. Have a wonderful day, my pickles. Thanks so much for listening. Don't forget to comment below. Bye-bye for now.